Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of In the Chute. There's Calen. I'm Brandon, your two hosts, and we'll see what Calen's got for me today.
All right. So today I got a little bit of notes for in the shoot. So that's why I'm not looking at Zoom, but I'm looking at Google. Um, so the topic is the importance of ag to the United States. I was looking through some stuff to talk about some topics today. And one I happened to hit, I Googled top 10 questions about agriculture in the US, and it came up with all the plethora of the Googleisms. And the one that actually caught my eye was Pure Greens AZ. I think it's out of Arizona. That's why you had the AZ. I didn't really look into it, but it said the 50 most frequently asked farming questions, and it had a bunch of them. And one of them said agriculture makes up about 4.5% of the nominal gross domestic product of the United States. Though in many other countries, agriculture contributes 5 to 10 times as much to their respective GDPs. So we have 4.5%, but other places throughout the globe have closer to 20 or even 40% of their GDP made up of agriculture. So, where do you think ag stands with the United States? Is it increasing? Is it decreasing? Is it going to maintain? And what is really its hierarchy within the United States?
Well, there's a whole lot of different things there.
I know it's a lot for a 15-minute episode, but I figured it's something to shoot for anyway.
Well, here's one of the things when you're talking differences in the GDP, you're talking about different countries. Obviously, some of these countries are primarily agriculture. They don't have
Right.
any other manufacturing. So, of course, that's going to be so. That's a little hard to compare apples and oranges. I think we'd be better off looking at is maybe what our GDP was 10 years, 20 years, 50 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and see
And comparing
where
like
that's
that.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten better at production through. I mean, it's like your grandpa says, not your mom's dad. It says better living through chemistry because he's a pharmacist, right?
Yeah.
And literally we've done that. We've increased uh, or put into production a lot of ground that was not really fit for production before through a simple thing as putting some water on it after you've irrigated or after you've uh, putting fertilizer on, or you've specialized in what the soil is lacking, and you feed the soil what it needs to become more productive. So maybe say gypsum or something. If it's a really hard clay, to kind of break it up. um, it may be deficient in a certain thing, so you feed it that, and all of a sudden got a lot better production out of it. Our practices are better. um, Obviously there's a lot more made with less people, so automation has done a lot towards that. So I think you got to kind of look at a couple of things. One of them is, yeah, the production is up, but how many people are doing that? And that's becoming less and less, and that's kind of an issue too. But God, GDP, I'd have to take your word for that. I mean, I don't know where that came. What was the statistics from? Just that Arizona site?
Yeah, I think it's
Agreed.
Arizona. I wanted to throw something out there because it's kind of controversial. I have absolutely no good numbers behind it, and I think this would actually be a good Hashknife Hangouts conversation because we could deep
Yeah,
dive into probably me doing a whole lot of Google of the GDPs across,
yeah,
us, the United States for 50 years, and then us versus here's where I think it would be good to see us versus other first world countries.
right.
And then like you said, there's other agricultural industries within their own nation. So if some of them are 10 times as much as us, we're closing in on 40-45% of their GDP. Well, who's probably going to be doing that? Off the top of my head, I'm thinking places like probably Colombia, believe it or not, Afghanistan, maybe Honduras, because Honduras and there's another, I'm missing it, Dominican Republic, because what's agriculture for them? Tobacco. They're
Right.
creating a lot of tobacco for the world. Cuba probably is similar. So I'm
Well, you
thinking
said
of countries like that where they're producing a lot of stuff that's agriculturally produced for luxury products.
look at coffee
Coffee is
as a
another good
crop.
one.
right?
Yep.
There's a big Colombian product. God, there's a couple other countries, not Honduras. There's a lot of them in that area, that Central America area, that has really good volcanic type soils, high, elevation stuff that coffee loves, and they've done, really well. I mean, they're when you think of that country, you think of that as a product. But you said Afghanistan. I mean, poppy. What is a poppy for
That's what I
heroin?
was thinking. Yep.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, and,
exactly
and
where my mind went. I've seen some
yeah,
of the farms and stuff there, but I specifically think of, I never saw the poppy fields, but I've heard of them. Just
yeah.
there can be fields and fields and fields of poppy because it's an agricultural product that creates black tar heroin that they can send throughout the world and bring money into the country.
Well, you take a look at that. If you've got, let's say a reasonable spot, because I think they're probably doing all that farming and tilling by hand.
Yeah, they are.
And so if you got one guy that's got 10 acres, which is probably, I would imagine, a big field. I don't know. Um, can you imagine uh, doing a 10-acre field, having a great crop of heroin based product versus 10 acres of winter wheat?
Yeah, it's not going to
Now,
bring anything.
what's your GDP difference then?
That's a good point, and
Right?
I think that's where this would be a great 1 hour conversation because now you're
Yeah.
going two very different products. One goes to bread, and one goes to opium and heroin.
Right. Yeah. No, that's right. So, and one's exported and one's, not, or some is exported, but generally for more domestic use. But if you're only raising 10 acres worth of wheat, you're not exporting that. That's
No.
staying right local in your own. You're making 4 sacks of flour out of that. So,
Yep.
um, one of the things that's interesting about that, in terms of that, a question I was just asked recently, and I never got a chance to look it up, is the farm bill.
Mm.
Sounds great. Like all this money is being pushed towards the farm bill. Did you look that up, or do you have the ability to look it up? How much of that goes towards food stamps?
No, that we need to write this down so we can have a conversation about it because
Yeah,
this will become a long conversation. They might end up becoming a two-parter because, I mean, U.S. GDP on ag and then the federal legislation that goes through to support ag. Those are two different things, but they're very much related, and it involves what we kind of do, which is talk about ag politics specifically. But I mean, you and I talked to um, some people like last week about it, and it was, they're supposed to be, and this is where we'll have to confirm it. There's supposed to be a very large chunk, as in like over half of the farm bill that goes towards things like food stamps, WIC, what
I
else?
think I think it's actually up in about the 80% of the
Really?
farm in the farm bill.
We'll have to check, but why is
Yeah,
that? It's because those items,
politics.
those systems or those programs, they're technically supported by ag, so they get rolled up, and I don't know. You can have arguments either way, and I can see it. Is you can either get rolled up as part of ag because ag produces for them, or it gets rolled up because it has to rely itself on ag. Like two similar ways of saying that, but they're different. If it makes, hopefully that makes sense to somebody watching. But I think the reason why they're rolled up into it, whether you agree or not, is because ag has to produce it, and essentially they're subsidizing ranchers and farmers and their production in order to assist with low income families and single mothers.
Yeah.
That's the thought, at
Well, and I
least.
and I think it's a messaging too.
Yeah.
If you say, "Oh, we need to support our farmers," and we do this through the farm bill, oh, people go, "Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, they get subsidies because they're feeding us." Well, no, they're not necessarily. That's not where that money's necessarily going for.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm trying to find it. I'm looking off the side here, and I'm not good at this.
That's all
So
right. We'll do
yeah,
some
we'll have to get into
actual
it
legit
sometime.
digging, but we got about 5 minutes left. So I guess to the original question, do you think ag is it gonna start to increase in GDP, decrease, or is it just gonna continue to maintain for a while?
Depends on some of
Oh,
our.
and you lost your background.
Depends on some. Yeah. depends on some of our trade issues. You know, it's gross domestic product. Where does
Yeah.
that go? Does it stay here locally, or does it go to the um, world at large, basically? So, and I don't know the difference in cost or the difference in what we would be paid. Certainly not at the farm level, but at the broker commodity governmental level. Um, how much is just traded straight away, and then there's a difference in what you would call for your you know
Final
oh God,
product.
the deficit, your deficit.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just having a blank there. That kind of stuff. So what happens? You know, how is that really counted? I don't know.
And you bring that up a good point to kind of wrap it up. It'd be interesting to see how the government reacts with money from products such as wheat, barley, corn, cattle, hogs, lambs, because we talk about the packers and how they increase the price on the consumer. When the government does that to send that to other countries, we're doing that swap back and forth. I wonder how much they do the same thing similar to the Packers, and that's something we should look into as well, because
Well,
I'd be very
well,
curious to see what that increase in margin is.
yeah, but is there a margin? Is there a drop in
Too.
the margin because we literally give cash to other countries,
Right.
right? Why wouldn't they trade commodities in lieu of cash? And what are they going to value that cash at? So I think it changes. I think it's different depending on what country it is. You know, we're giving billions of dollars to countries that they hate us, and we're still giving them money. And so when you're sending them food, what do you value the food at? I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a question. I'm not trying to make a rhetorical question out of it. I don't know.
Well, I think with that, we're gonna have to come back with a long episode or two of Hash Knife Hangouts. So we'll put this one out the pasture.